The following is a podcast with Her Grace Sukhava Mataji, who is a Prabhupada disciple and one of the key contributors to spread Krishna Consciousness in North America and especially in the new Vrindavan area. Her books on spiritual and emotional therapy have helped many devotees in difficult circumstances. Mataji herself is a very kind and caring guide for many within the ISKCON communities and is able to guide people through her experiences within the movement. Her story after accepting Krishna Consciousness is quite an intriguing one, as she dealt with a lot of difficulties in her life but never gave up her faith in Krishna. We hope you enjoy this candid conversation and gain some inspiration from it. If you like our content, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe.
Full disclosure, I have only read till chapter 4 of Entering the Gap. I've read it all, but my understanding is still there because...
you read the whole for Finding?
Yeah, I read What to Do About Sue, I read Finding the Gap completely, and Entering the Gap till chapter 4.
Okay.
My understanding is still then.
It's okay.
Yeah.
If you understood all that, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is quite a lot, yes.
It's pretty intensive.
Yes. I wanted to ask you, Mataji, firstly, that first thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be with you and to share and to discuss deeper topics.
It's honestly our opportunity. Thank you so much.
It's mutual.
Yeah, you're very kind. And I wanted to start off by saying that Mataji's all the books, whatever she has written, it is honestly it's a reflection of all the sacrifice and all the hard work that her and many Prabhupada disciples like her have made, and it is because of them that my generation, my father's generation also are able to survive today in Krishna Consciousness. So for that we are always eternally grateful to you, Mataji.
Thank you. I'm eternally grateful that Krishna let all my mistakes, which I put in the book, be of value to somebody else. That way they weren't a waste.
Actually, Mataji, when I was reading the first book, which is the story about the deprogramming that you went through,
Right.
in which you had mentioned that you and Prabhuji at the time, you just read the Bhagavad Gita and you had started following already all the principles, and you were already...
Step by step.
Yeah, slowly. You had, even before you came in contact with devotees and or met Prabhupada, saw Prabhupada, like you had no idea, but you were so convinced by what you read that you had already started following. So what was the changing factor, if I may ask?
Well, I mean, we were both hippies. So we were both in that generation of searching, seeking some deeper purpose in life. And, you know, we didn't really find our purpose with the establishment. So, I got the Bhagavad Gita in college, and my then Prabhu, Bhokta, he had gotten the Bhagavad Gita also around that time, and we were just acquaintances. But I didn't know anybody who had read it and could understand it at all, because I kept getting stuck on the second chapter. I mean, I would carry it with me, and I felt like it was my Bible, because you know, even as soon as I touched it, it was like, this is the answer to my questions that I've had my whole life. So, but I mean, how you can't understand without some kind of a guru. It's because it's so deep. So, so he would answer some of my questions because he had read the book 3 times, and I was just reading it the first time. But it just intrigued me, and I really, really, really liked the Eastern perspective. It just really helped to answer the questions I had in my Christian upbringing. How is it that one man is born poor and one man is born rich? You know, I'm taught that God is fair, and that does not seem fair. What's that about? And then my other upset was, if you don't, you know, believe in Christ, if you don't take Christ as your Lord, Jesus as your Lord, you're going to go to hell forever. I'm like, why would God do that if he's...
Your father was a pastor, right?
Minister, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he wasn't that fanatical. My grandfather was fanatical, but still, why would God do that? You know, like just you make a mistake, you blow it in one life, and that's it. Bye-bye. I don't think anybody would do that.
But I read about, you have written about your grandfather Mataji.
Yeah.
And a lot of his conclusions were quite similar to what we speak about in Krishna Consciousness. A lot of them, not all of them. Yeah.
Well, the commitment.
Yeah.
And the sacrifice. And the, the faith. Yeah, his faith was there. But of course it was like a little small-minded, and he was really afraid for me that I was going to go to hell. So I wasn't afraid for him. He was afraid of me.
And your mother had the opposite scare that you will end up like becoming like your grandfather.
Well, I kind of was a bit fanatical. I mean, he was really fanatical, and she was brought up in that fanatic background. They weren't even allowed to play cards as kids.
No gambling or anything.
Well, no, not just even playing cards like Old Maid or whatever.
Okay.
Playing cards.
Just for fun, sort of.
Just for fun. They weren't allowed to do that. So he was fanatical, but she was like, no, she didn't like the fanaticism. And she thought she was pretty open-minded. But I definitely stretched her comfort zone.
She was Mataji because I remember that this is towards the end of the book, sort of, or in the middle, should I say, that when your mother and father were contemplating whether they should put you through that deprogramming thing or not. And I remember you have written that she was contemplating how Indians and the Chinese and the Asian population must have felt when Christianity was first brought upon them.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, my sense is that generally the Westerners don't think like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it gave me hope that she like whatever can be said or done, ultimately she has that sort of a thinking.
She was very intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she also had a lot of anxiety. And that was because of her past.
Right.
So, but she had a lot of intelligence, but she just couldn't make sense of how I had kind of changed so fast.
The concern was, Mataji, if I'm not wrong, but from the sense I got from the book was, the concern was more related to that you had sort of given up meat and you were on this strict diet, and also you were not sleeping as much because you used to like get up for Mangala, like before Mangalati 2:30, finish all your rounds, then go for Mangalati. Like that was you and Bhakta Prabhu's daily schedule for a long time. So I think your mother was very concerned about your health at the time.
Yes, that was the overt reasoning. But I also feel that there was an emotional reasoning that she really had not processed her relationship with her father, and she was really still upset that he was so heavy on her mother and her, and that her father was very, like he didn't treat her very fairly, like she wanted to be a doctor. And her younger brother, 2 years younger than her, she got a scholarship or something, but her father wouldn't let her do that for some reason. And somehow, like he sided with the son, and he got to be a doctor. So, there was just some real anger at her father, and that was all mixed in with his being a fanatic, And then my mother and I had a little bit of a rough relationship even growing up, which I don't write about in the book, but it's like, she had a lot of anxiety and she yelled a lot. So I made that mean she didn't love me, and so, we were kind of always a little bit at odds, and I kept trying to win her love by doing all these good things. But then when I became a teenager, and then when I did this radical change of, complete changing my clothes, changing my whole schedule, giving up my career to be a devotee, that really was a little too much for her to handle. And so it was all mixed together. And so, she was concerned for my physical well-being, but I think she was also concerned. And there was a lot of her unprocessed stuff mixed together with that. So that that made it kind of.
She sort of convinced your father that we have to do this sort of for her sort of sake. We have to, so that she lives a normal life and doesn't become a fanatic. We have to do this deprogramming, quote unquote.
Yeah, she convinced him.
Because I remember he was very. I think he wrote in the book that. I can conclude that it is a genuine sort of religion and they want to actually come close to God. That was his conclusion after sort of living through visiting New Vrindavan and seeing your activities in the temple as well.
Yeah, that was his conclusion. So then there was a little bit of a tiff between my mom and dad, and she wanted him to back her.
How legal was it, Mataji?
How legal?
Yeah, what they did to you in the book, how legal was it?
It's illegal to take an adult across state lines, which is what they did.
Yeah.
So, or to even kidnap.
Right.
It's illegal. So I could have pressed charges.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they were willing to take the risk at that.
Yeah, well that's why the deprogrammers tell the parents to do the kidnapping.
Okay.
You do the illegal stuff. A child is much less likely to sue, press charges against the family, but somebody else, they would have no qualms about it.
Right.
So you do the illegal stuff and we'll do the other stuff.
I won't go too much into the deprogramming bit because you have explained it very nicely in the book. The whole conversation between Mark, Paula, yourself, and you go into a lot of detail about it. But what I wanted to ask you towards the end of the whole deprogramming thing, like there's a point where the guy Mark who's speaking with you, he sort of loses his temper and then you finally succumb and you say, fine, I'll not do this. You just convince him that you won't do it, sort of temporarily to get out of the situation. You say that I will not. I will leave ISKCON. I'll leave Krishna Consciousness, whatever.
Something like that.
So. In the book you write, Mataji, that it was tremendous amount of trauma you went through during that phase. But what was it? And there are many people who have reverted as well, because there are examples who left ISKCON because of
and
never came back. So what was it that you held on to during that 3 day sort of sacrifice and austerity?
Well, I was trying to hold on to my faith. It kind of just shows that everybody has a breaking point. Everybody. And I mean, the tactics they used were actual brainwashing tactics.
It's gaslighting, to another extreme.
More than that. Even prisoners of war can be brainwashed. Because you just put a person under a certain number of physical, emotional, mental stress, whatever it takes, to break them, and everybody has a breaking point. And so, what was your question again?
So what was it that made you hold on to Krishna Consciousness and never leave
Well,
it?
I had a belief in God from when I was little because my father was a minister. So I held on to that. Everything else, because of the brainwashing technique, I did let go of it because
in that moment, temporarily, sort of.
Well, they brainwashed me.
Okay.
They snapped my brain. So, I was kind of bewildered and confused for a while, but now I'm telling the whole story. Bokta helped me a lot because he came in, and just having that support helped me. And he got me to start thinking again, just to start thinking, because I was pretty much kind of like in shock, kind of pretty much like just in shock and traumatized and not thinking straight. Yeah. And so, he helped me to kind of start thinking again.
He, I think, told you that it's okay to chant. After the whole thing had passed by, he said it's okay to chant. There's nothing wrong with it, and sort of. Yeah. And the reason I asked is because it almost seemed that within as quickly as you let it go, that's how, even faster than that, you took it back up again and you were back with your routine.
Well, because I had that support, because my brain was really, I was in like a brain fog, like I was really like, they had really messed with my brain. And so, when he said that, it was like, oh, okay. It was like a ray of hope. And so then I could like start thinking again, because before that I was like afraid. Like they had really, really, trauma and fear are so connected. I was just so terrified. I even did some strange things that my mother thought were strange. It's just, is that what people do? But I was really in kind of terror and fear. And so, he really pacified me and just opened me up, and he did it very gently. And he just opened me up, and I was like, oh. And then I just started thinking again. And so the thinking really, they said I wasn't thinking when I was in the movement, but they actually caused me to not think. And then when I started thinking again, it's like, wait a minute.
No, in the book when you read it, you like, when I was reading it, I immediately understood the irony of them trying to convince you that you are part of a weird cult. And by giving all these examples, the Children of God, or Scientology, and then including Prabhupada in that as well.
Yes.
But they were not realizing that they were part of a huge cult as well, which was doing some very illegal stuff like kidnapping and trying to brainwash people.
Yeah. It's interesting what people do in the name of what's right.
Yeah.
Or in the name of even religion, because the person who originally started the deprogramming, he was a Christian, and he wanted to save his son. So, he's the one who kind of started the whole deprogramming thing. And then it just got a little bit more and more sophisticated. But it was pretty amazing. But when I saw that piece, I was like, wait a minute.
But was it like he was a Christian, but the questions and the kind of conversations they were having, it just felt like they wanted anyone to live like a normal materialistic lifestyle. And because I remember them telling you, you can smoke if you want, you can drink if you want. Like, it wasn't about Christianity, or it wasn't anything related to that. It was just to live sort of a mundane life that everyone else is living.
Right. I mean, but he had his, like, he felt that this was
his mission.
His mission, God's mission for him. Save the children. So, he justified it, that this is his mission.
And it's required to do all this extreme thing.
Everything can get off kilter, depending on your motives.
So, in the book, Mataji, you're having, it's a conversation between you, your children, and your mother and father as well.
Oh, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, you have vaguely mentioned that sort of you made up with your parents after that, and they started visiting you again and all. But like, as a normal human being, like, I was just putting myself in your position, like, and I was thinking, if I was in your position, I would never ever go back. Like, I would never talk to them again, no matter what.
Right.
So, what was it that? How did you overcome that sort of anger and also mend that relation going ahead?
Well, I was actually terrified to be in a room alone with my parents for 7 years. So, like, our relationship was very broken. And so, my parents would call me, but I would just talk to them a few minutes on the phone, and I think they visited me maybe for an hour and a half, one time per year. So it was like just very sporadic, like, how's the weather? How's your health? Okay, bye. So, it took time for me to not be afraid. That was part of the trauma. My father kept asking me, can you come home? Can you come home? And I gave excuses every year. Finally, the last year I said, I can't. and I didn't give any excuse. And then Bogda, my husband, said, "You're being neurotic." I was like, "I am not being neurotic."
I have legitimate fears.
Well, it was more than legitimate. It was trauma,
Yeah.
trauma, like, because that really, that shook my whole world. So anyway, so then little by little, I was a little bit nice to them. But there's a whole series of things that we went through. So I was 22, and then I went to visit them when I was 29. Then that was the first time I visited them. I had 3 kids by that time. Little by little, we got to see a little bit more of each other. But I would say the biggest changes, some of the changes came about in probably in the early 90s. New Vrindavan was doing interfaith work, so I had a little bit more of an understanding again of the Christianity, and I could speak in their Christian terms a little bit more. And that opened my mind a little bit more, like, to them. And they felt really bad for what they had done, so they wanted a relationship. And then just little by little we did healings, and then we connected a little more. And then in 2001 I had a major breakdown in my life. And in that breakdown, I needed to do some therapeutic work. And in doing that work, because I was really wanted to get to the bottom of why I was having the breakdown, I found out so much about myself, and I connected a lot more with my parents, and I would tell them all the breakthroughs that I was having, what I was discovering about myself, and my father said it was kind of like I did 10 years worth of therapy in 1 year. So that was a big acknowledgement, and they were happy to connect with me, and then I was happy to connect with them, because that's who we really are. We're really related, and we're really connected, and I write about that in the book. So it was a lot of life experiences that I went through, and it was a gradual thing, but it really, in the end, it was, we were just the same.
Because I think when you're discussing it in the past tense, even in the book, your mother's, you're speaking a little bit part of the story, and then your mother adds in, and your father adds in.
Her perspective, and his perspective.
So you, the reader can also understand, they genuinely had certain feelings of concern for you at the time.
Yes.
Although it may have manifested itself in a very sort of ugly way. But
Right. And it doesn't seem like they had concern for me. It seems like you're trying to take away my independence here. Yeah. So that's why it's a unique book, because it's got both perspectives. I think maybe other people I don't know how many people write books about deprogramming, but usually it's like, the deprogrammers are demons, that kind of a book, or the cults are demoniac.
Right.
It's kind of like
one
or the other.
One extreme to the other extreme.
Exactly. But this was really interesting because it's a personal story, and you could just see that there were personal perspectives in there that need to be taken into consideration, because we're individuals. And if we just group people and put them into boxes, then that's all we see. And I didn't see a lot of my mother except for the box I had put her in. And that box started when I was really young. The box was, you don't love me and I'm unlovable, because she did yell a lot. But then when we were sitting on the sofa and she was in her 80s, I acknowledged her for going back to college and getting her master's and becoming a teacher. And then she said, well, I wouldn't have done it if it were, for your father pushing me out the door. I said, why is that? And she said, well, I was depressed. And I was like, wait, my mom was depressed. My mom was depressed? Like, you don't put those things together, like your parents are fine. You don't realize that maybe they have some issues that they're dealing with and working with, and then that kind of gets passed down generationally. It's called generational trauma.
Yes.
Yeah, and so, she passed down her anxiety to me, and we're stopping it now. We're not going to pass it on anymore, but so that really played into it a lot. But then to be able to discuss that with her openly, and then I could really see. I asked her I mentioned something else to her, and she told the story about when I was born. Did I mention that in the book?
Not that I remember. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, she was talking about the day I was born and how they took me away from her, and they didn't see me. She didn't see me, and she was like, "I want my baby. Where's my baby?" And she was. I was so angry at that doctor. I never went back to him again. I was so angry he wouldn't let me see you for 24 hours, and it's like, my mom loved me. Like it finally, really, she did.
This is, Mataji, just winding back the clock a little bit between the next two books, which is you talk about the therapy that you went through in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, later on in the book, you have written...
You're talking about finding the gap?
Yeah, between finding the gap, between what to do about Sue and finding the gap.
Okay.
Finding the gap starts with you have the breakdown and you need certain help and you go through a lot of things, and then you have this beautiful program that you have sort of charted down in a very systematic way.
Okay, yeah.
So, but before that, I wanted to ask you that you went through the deprogramming bit and all, and then you said for 7 years you were not able to converse. And towards the end of the book, you mentioned that you were asked to take sannyas and go and preach in Asian countries, Taiwan, Malaysia, all these other places. So you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but my question is that did you sort of, because asking a Mataji to take sannyas who is with kids and everything and who has a regular family life and who has duties to attend to on a material level is what I would consider a cult. Yeah. So did you not, because you were so afraid of the deprogramming bit, did you not realize that what was going on?
Well, that's an excellent question, so I'll qualify it. So in the beginning days, in New Vrindavan, when Prabhupada was on the planet, we were just really enthusiastic young people. And that's when they deprogrammed me. When I was 22, that was in 76. So Prabhupada was still here. So we were just very enthusiastic, converts. New converts are usually pretty enthusiastic, and that's what we were. And, we really, like a family oriented, and we really worked together, and we all performed the same austerities, so nobody felt that there was any unfairness. And then we worked on Prabhupada's palace, and it was such a dedication to work together and a privilege, and it was exciting. And of course, we were all young, we had a lot of energy, so it kept us out of trouble. So at that point, we were still like any other ISKCON center at that time. Enthusiastic, young, dedicated, young people. And then things got a little bit more, what would the word be? Questionable when we began to collect funds, and we weren't really distributing books. We were collecting money, and we weren't exactly telling the truth. So that's where things started to, be a little bit,
divergence
off, what would you say?
Tangent.
Off track, yeah. Just like if a plane is like 1 degree off its course, So it doesn't look so bad. Doesn't look so bad. But 10 years later,
Yeah.
what a mess. Yeah. So that's kind of when things got to be more messier, and that's why I've been speaking lately in different temples about how important truth is and how important it is to be truthful, because it slips in so little, and then you don't even realize until like 10 years later, well, how did I get here? Wait a minute, that's not why I came to Krishna Consciousness. So so that's kind of when we went off, and then there were other things that happened, and then Kirtanananda got hit on the head, and so then things went off a little bit more. And I think the main way they went off, because a lot of people say that the interfaith was, really off. Yes and no. I think the way it really went off was that just in the in traumatic brain injury, your brain is kind of split in two, and the two sides don't communicate very well. So it kind of divides your vision a little bit more. So there was, in the early days, there was this, oh, we're good, and then the people out there, they got problems. So we're kind of like in two different camps. So this kind of divided things, and then there was a lot more, so how can I say this, division in the thought, like if you don't agree with me, the authority, then you're kind of like out of the fold. And that's kind of what culture like, and then also
my way or the highway.
My way or the highway, but also like culture, also like you're special. So in New Vrindavan, we were special. We were the inmates. And when I think about it now, inmates is prisoners. But we were proud of it because we're special, we're more austere, we're better. And that kind of mentality is dangerous. And that's when things started to get a little bit more, and then we can do this, and why not do this, and why not have ladies be sannyasini? Now, you asked me about women doing their household duties. Well, I wasn't doing those
it's
household duties.
It's not about like women doing household duties, but more of the saying that you're taking a mother away from the children, or a wife away from the husband.
That happened before I took sannyasini.
Okay.
That happened in 1982 when my youngest daughter was 1 year old, and I was asked to go out collect
funds. Okay.
Full time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they got passed from mother to mother. Yeah, 1, 3, and then my son was already in the Gurukula. So yeah, that was tough for them already. And then the only thing that was added on top of that, and I think it was Kirtananda wanted to really kind of like, I shouldn't say anything. I won't say anything. Anyway.
No, my question only was that
So
deprogramming, did that play a role in sort of you blanking it out that what is going on is not correct? Or
I think, maybe I answered the question wrong. The blanking it out was probably because I didn't have any self-esteem. I didn't have any self-worth. And so, and then this person, was a pure devotee, and we really believed that, and we were, hooked into, and you just do what your authority says, and you just be obedient, and that's the way to do it. And that was kind of the mood in a lot of the temples. It just got a little bit off track, and then, for myself, collecting money and leaving my kids when they were so young, sometimes I look at little kids and I say, how could I do that? What was I thinking? And I was like, I wasn't thinking. And that's another way that cults kind of evolve, that someone is put on a pedestal, but the people here don't don't have enough self-worth, or they don't want to take responsibility, so they're kind of feeding this, and then
the validation is coming from the
both ways. You're like, and then you're special, and you know, we're taking care of you, you're special, and then you're special, so it's like a kind of a codependent relationship, which cuts off some of the ability to be independently thoughtful, which is what Prabhupada wanted from us. So if I said anything to offend anybody,
no, nothing like
well,
that.
I might have offended people who are viewing this. If I said anything to offend anybody, I'm not here to offend anybody. And I mean, Kirtananda did a lot of things, but there's always a danger. There's a danger for anybody. If you're put on a pedestal, there is a danger. It's dangerous, and so we have to be careful, because it just sneaks in so quietly. You don't notice it.
Right.
And that's the message. And that's how cults happen. It's like a good thing, it's great, but then all of a sudden it's not.
And it's too late by that time.
Well,
like in the sense that you've already deviated so much, so big correction to do.
It does take a big correction.
Yeah.
A big correction. And it is still possible, though.
Right.
So I hope I didn't offend anybody.
So, Mataji, coming to the other two books you have written.
You have asked me a lot of tough questions.
Sorry. Maybe I should have warned you.
It's okay. It's okay. I just hope I didn't offend anybody. Go ahead.
The following two books that you have written, Mataji, Finding the Gap, Entering the Gap, is sort of the healing process that you have talked about. That coming out of all of that sort of heavy toxicity and that you're carrying around for decades, years on end, and it's unknowingly wearing you down sort of, but you're not even realizing it, like you said. In the beginning of the book, you said, Mataji, that you took certain courses, like landmark courses. So I just wanted to, like, you have not given much details on what they were.
Right,
so,
because sometimes there's a little, from the audience, there's a little bit of disparity about, propagating these, and I'm not...
That was one of my questions, actually, that did you face any sort of... Because you have, I should say, you have very beautifully and very artistically blended a lot of therapy with spiritual realizations, and it is not easy in any way. And I think for an open-minded person, if you really give it a shot, it is definitely going to help them. But there are certain people who might say you're sort of, this is a...
Well, you see, there is the status quo of what we say and what we do as devotees, and you just depend on Krishna and the holy name and the scripture, and just the other day somebody said, something happened in the community, and they said, well, we tell everybody just chant Hare Krishna and all your problems will be solved, and then they see this big problem coming up in our community and they say, like, what's going on there? I said, well, maybe we want to start saying something that's a little bit more true, like if you chant Hare Krishna, the things that are blocking you from being pure will come up so that you can do something about them, rather than it's going to solve all your problems across the board, because there is no quick fix in this material world. If there was a quick fix, believe me, we'd all be doing it and we'd all be out of here. The word would spread fast. There is no quick fix to being conditioned. So, now, tell me the question again so I can get back.
So was there a backlash sort of to what you have mixed?
So for me, I was a fanatic. And I was a New Vrindavan fanatic. So that's even more fanatical than a devotee fanatic. But then after 27 years of doing all the right things, chanting, obeying, renouncing my kids when they were babies, working, I think we've got maybe a half a day off, 364 days a year, 18-hour days. I would spend like maybe 15 minutes eating as fast as I could. I still eat pretty fast. Bad habit. So after doing all the right things for 27 years is a big chunk.
One expects to be a pure devotee by
Exactly,
that.
I was like, and then when my world shattered, I'm like, wait a minute, Krishna, I should be a pure devotee now. What's up here? I did all the right things. Now, why am I so angry, frustrated, depressed? I was like overwhelmed, and I was kind of angry at Krishna, and I wanted to kill myself actually. Because it was like, if that's what I get after doing all the right things, but then I can't even kill myself. So what? What do you want? Now, the realm that I was living in, the devotees were just giving me what do you call that? The party lines?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you call it, the party lines. It's like, you're in Maya.
The fixed talking points of
Yes. You're in Maya. I'm like, no kidding. You think I don't know him in Maya? I know him in Maya. Can you tell me something that's going to help me out of Maya? Please, tell me something. That's not helping me. Just chant Hare Krishna. I'm like, I didn't give up yet. It's not working. So I was pretty desperate, and I was losing, relationships. I was losing my mind. And then a friend recommended, for me to do the landmark forum. She had asked me to do it before, but I didn't need anything from the outside. I'm fine, So, but then now, her daughter, actually, this is how I got her daughter, who was a second gen and the same age as my youngest daughter, and we had all grown up together in Vrindavan. Her daughter, I was talking to her on the phone. She goes, "Yeah, I just enrolled, and I really want to have a breakthrough. I really want to, and I'm looking at how I can break through past patterns." And I'm like, I need a breakthrough. And then I thought, what do I have to lose? I am losing everything. I'm about ready to lose my life. I have nothing to lose. What the heck? So then, and I feel that it was sent by Krishna. Now, it's not that Krishna sends the same things to everybody, or that the same things work for everybody. But I was so desperate for answers, and just going outside of the party lines, things, they just started making me think. They asked questions, and I was thinking, and I was thinking, and I was thinking, and I was trying to figure out, couldn't even understand what they were saying. I was thinking, and I was like, and it's not something you can figure out with your brain, really. It's really about opening up to new perspectives. And I had some breakthroughs, but then after a few days, because I was just willing to put down my armor, I know the right answers, I know the way, when I was just willing to I was tired too, so just put down my armor and just be open. Krishna gave me so many realizations. You could say it was the Course. I'm saying it's Krishna through the Course, because they were using different words, but they were really talking about, how to deal with your mind. They were really but they were using so many different words that I heard it in a different way, and I could then look at it from a different perspective, rather than you're Maya, right? So it just opened me up to new perspectives, to see things and to process things, and then I continued to take outside courses, and nonviolent communication was also very helpful. So one thing helped me to work on my brain part, the mind part, and how to work with that, and how to ask questions and think. And then compassionate really helped to open up my heart, so that I could connect to others, even if they weren't in the same wavelength mentally. that I could open up to other people. And these two things, the marriage of these two processes, was phenomenal. And then I did a lot of other different healings and whatever I did just to understand my own machinery. Like, okay, why do I do that? And why do I think that way? Is that still true? And do I want to believe that? And just really questioning and asking myself questions. Krishna gave me new answers. But the answers were the same answers. They were just in a new format. And he saved me. So, I really feel that, Krishna loves us so much. He loves us so much that he gives us so many healing processes. Just try one, try any. If it works for you, to try something else. So many, so that we'll try one. Just like even in Bhagavad Gita, if you can't do this, do this. If you can't do this, do this. Just do something on the path of Dharma. Just start somewhere. And he just is so generous to throw out all these processes. And it's scientific actually. And
it's very scientific.
And he's the science. Yes, he's the creator of the science.
Yes.
So and we including people who aren't devotees, we tap into these different things that Krishna created. Even the internet, it's the sound waves, it's the vibration. He created. That's his energy, and we have just tapped into how to use it. Now people don't have any trouble using the internet energy, but they have difficulty using other kinds of energy, healing. So it's all Krishna's energy, and when we see it as that, we can utilize it.
We'll be more receptive towards helping it, allowing it to help us in our.
That's a great way of saying allowing it to help us. If we have resistance, it's not going to help us. And the same thing with Krishna consciousness. If I have if I'm in a little box, this is what Krishna consciousness is. This is what a devotee looks like, and everything out here is Maya. Wow, that's a small world. But actually, it says that, devotees, Prabhupada was broad-minded. So how can we broaden our perspective to see Krishna, where is Krishna here? And is this helping me, or is this not helping me? And if it's helping me, even if people don't particularly like it, or they don't want to push it forward, help me. Thank you, Krishna. Yeah.
Thank you. But there are certain concepts in the book, Mataji. Chapter-wise, I have just noted them down, some of them. That when I was reading,
took a lot of notes.
When I was reading them, it really struck me because it was immediate sort of, yes, this is what I do in my life. Sort of. So I'll just ask you, there are one lines, that's it, and maybe you can just give your explanation on a small explanation if possible. So
I'll try to make it short.
Yeah. No, you don't have to. You can keep it as long as you want. A podcast is meant for that. In the first chapter is about how you met how the couple came for therapy and everything.
Right.
And then the second chapter begins with you take them out for a swim and you're walking around and they start the therapy session. So during the talk, one of the characters in the book, Jago Mataji, she says that we often use scriptures to confirm our biases.
Yeah.
So this immediately sort of hit me because I have seen everyone do it, and I'm not blaming anyone. I myself do it as well because it's so easy to do.
Yes.
Just because we think we know.
Yes.
So if you can just explain a little bit to the audience that what it actually means.
Okay, well, I'll just give you just an explanation from my own life, how we confirm. And not just with scripture, but just even our beliefs. So my mother yelled at me. I made that mean she doesn't love me. I made that mean I'm unlovable. So, what did I do? Every time she yelled at me, see, it's true, she doesn't love me. I remembered that, and I gathered that evidence and, took that as like evidence that it's true. But then the times that she didn't do that, I just didn't really pay note to them. And the only way I know this is because when I started doing the work on myself, I couldn't remember the good things.
Right.
I could only remember the bad things because I had really accumulated a lot of evidence to prove what I believe. Because, see, what we believe is kind of like the foundation of how we, like the ground that we stand on of how things are. So we have it about how things are in a certain way, and different cultures have it in different ways. So
individually also everyone has it in a different way. Yeah.
So, but if something shakes how that is, no, your mother loves you, it's like, it doesn't, you don't know how to integrate my mother yelling me and loving me at the same time because you're young. You don't know how to integrate that. And so that's one example in everyday life in Krishna consciousness. So I became a workaholic at the age of 8 because the way I would win my mother's love was by working hard and by getting good grades. And I went to a school that had high demands and high expectations when I was 8. And so I learned how to work really hard. And
you also finished your 4-year course in 2 years.
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
That is not easy.
It was okay. Yeah. So I'm a workaholic. I learned how to do that. So now I lost my train of thought again. So
using scriptures to justify bias.
Okay, so thank you. So then I come to Krishna consciousness, right? And I come to New Vrindavan, and there, like, the mode is the work mode, right? Work now, samadhi later. I'm like, I fit in right here.
Yes.
This is I'm a workaholic. This is perfect. Yeah. So it was a confirmation. So then you can just say work now, samadhi later. Work now, samadhi later. Work now, samadhi later for 27 years, and you're like, wait a minute. I don't need samadhi, but I don't need all this big mess that I just came up with. Is the working now actually getting me what I want? And so not until our reality is confronted with a bigger reality do we usually question our belief systems. We don't usually question our belief systems, but our belief systems are just our belief systems. They're not necessarily the absolute truth. And we all have basic belief systems about ourselves and about the world. It's not fair, people don't care, people don't listen to me, just those little beliefs. And then we pile up these beliefs that aren't really the truth. They're the misinterpretation of our material mind. And when we try to paste the absolute truth on top of that, it doesn't stick. I mean, I used super glue.
Pasting it on a lie.
I used super glue, so it stuck for 27 years, but it won't stay because really the truth is here. It's under the lies, and when you peel the lies apart, you're like, oh yeah, and that's realization. That's realization. That's not even knowledge. That's like, oh yeah, and that's why I was getting a lot of aha moments when I was doing that's what, and then I started thinking and putting it all together, and I processed a lot more, and then I thought, I just need to download this out of my brain. That's when I wrote the books. And COVID was a handy time to do that.
So as you were saying, Mataji, that the truth is under all the various lies we tell us, and you have defined that as myths and habits in the book.
Yes.
I won't define what that is. People can read for themselves.
Yes.
But as you go forward in the book, another very, very handy quote, what we resist persists.
It's a simple thing. Go ahead.
So as soon as I read it, I immediately understood like 50, almost 90% of my problems will just go away if I stop resisting the thing.
And the biggest thing we resist, do you know what the biggest thing we resist is?
Krishna.
Ourselves.
Right.
And who we think we are that we aren't. We have all these lies that we tell about ourselves. We have these lies about ourselves, but we believe them, and then we resist them at the same time. And then we got to live in this place where there's these lies, and then we're resisting the lies, and then the little soul is saying, "Wait a minute, no, we're good. We're part of Krishna," and it's so overwhelming and confusing and exhausting. Yeah. So when we know what we're resisting, we can look at, okay, what am I resisting here? What am I resisting? And then we name what we're resisting. And then we can say, why am I resisting that? Where did that resistance come from? What am I making it mean that I resist this? Do I need to resist this? How can I look at this from another perspective and maybe see that this is maybe a part of my growth process? Maybe it's a part of deepening my awareness. How can I see it in a different light?
It's a very profound realization that unfortunately we never hear in our day-to-day Krishna conscious life.
We don't.
But it is a very important bit, I feel, because I think as soon as we understand that, I think on a material level at least we will be more satisfied.
And what's the point? What's wrong with utilizing both these things? Like if we can deal with them. I mean, we are in a material body.
Yes.
We do have a material mind. We do have a conditioned operating system. We have that. And then we're the soul inside. We're going to need to deal with this in some way, shape, or form and manage it. And the scriptures tell us that we're soul, and they tell us about the mind, but they don't tell us, exactly maybe relevant in relevant language, and in words like what you resist persists. They don't explain it exactly like that. And but you see it in Bhagavad Gita, attachment and aversion, both those things get us stuck. So aversion is resistance. Resistance is a negative attachment. I don't want this.
Yes.
Attachment is I want this. Aversion
it's two sides of the same coin, essentially. Yeah.
Exactly. It's attachment. So, but when I say I don't want this, I'm focusing on what I don't want, and I get what I don't want because that's where I'm giving all my energy.
You also explained it. This is a fun little game, if you're okay, Mataji, that
Okay.
you have. You have given examples of Kamsa and Duryodhan in the book, where how they resisted certain
Yes.
emotional sort
Yes.
of identifications that they had, and which led them to Kamsa was scared, and in the outward way it was him trying to kill Krishna constantly.
Exactly.
And Duryodhana was also sort of trying to protect himself by constantly putting Pandavas in distress again and again. So, if you're okay, can I name certain other personalities and maybe you can
Well, I'll
give
name
some
one
understanding.
right now.
Yeah.
Hiranyakashipu. Yeah, and the thing is, all of these personalities, I mean, we all have our own software programming, which is the false ego mechanisms.
The subtle body.
Yeah. We all have that. When I identify with that, then I protect that. And yet, because that's not who we really are, it's a fallible soldier. But when I protect that, I'm covering, actually who I really am. I'm not identifying with who I really am, but when we believe the automated software programming false ego, when we believe that's who we are, we're we're destined to be frustrated because that's not a real secure platform of truth. It's a bunch of lies.
You're protecting the wrong thing, essentially. Yeah.
And it's really a shaky platform.
Yeah.
And so people that keep protecting the false ego mechanism, like Hiranyakashipu, Duryodhana, Kamsa, they were actually very insecure.
What about someone like Dhritarashtra, which was in my
Super
mind?
insecure.
Yeah.
Super insecure, and their security was based on what they could do externally. I can kill, I can beat, I'm better than you.
I can be a better king or whatever.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
And it's based on a lie. And Krishna showed in the battle of Kurukshetra that truth wins. Lies don't win. All the demons, lies don't win. Truth wins. Krishna's the supreme truth. The supreme truth wins. And he wins with a flick of a finger. Because he's full truth. There's no lies there. Yeah. So go ahead, play your little game. I'll see what I can do.
Dhritarashtra was one of them. Another one which I had in mind was someone like Shishupal, who was, means that was an extreme sort of projection of.
And it is, and that's the other thing. It's a projection.
Yeah.
It's a projection. So Shishupal is criticizing Krishna, right? When we criticize others, it's generally a projection of our own insecurity or our own faults. And so you project it out and you say, oh look, you're this, and you do this, and you do that, and you do this, and you do that. It's all a distraction from looking at your own self. So Shishupal was criticizing to distract from, his own mess. And of course, it was short-lived. Another thing about pointing the finger, even Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, when you see, I can't remember the word, mistakes and faults in other people, introspect. Find faults and mistakes in yourself. No one can harm you unless you harm yourself. He said that. So Hiranyakashipu thought Prahlad was his enemy because he was very insecure. And what did Prahlad do? He just said, I don't want to be a demon. That's all he said. But how can you say that? Everybody's shaking. Why aren't you shaking? Just that one little boy shattered his whole world emotionally because you're not believing what I believe. How can you believe that? Because I'm believing the truth. How can
He was powerful enough to make the whole world believe his truth,
exactly.
But not one person.
Not one person didn't. And he saw Prahlad as an enemy. Now, he attacked Prahlad many times. Prahlad didn't see him as an enemy.
Right.
Because he was seeing the broader truth. He saw the broader truth. Krishna's in control. Okay, this is what's happening. I believe in Krishna. He didn't even say, Krishna protect me. He just said, I trust you, Krishna. So it's a whole different mentality, and one is so micro-focused, and you miss so much of the truth when you focus in like that. Like, my truth is the truth. You miss things. Even devotees. I call it the straw of expectations. So we make a prayer to Krishna, right? So we say, okay, Krishna, I want this. And then we have an expectation, and we think Krishna's supposed to answer our prayer inside here, right? And Krishna's answering our prayer over here, up here. But we don't see it, and then we're mad at Krishna. You're not answering my prayer. It's like, open up your perspective, and then you can see how he's answering your prayer. So broadening our perspective really helps us to integrate, all elements of the world and all aspects of the world as part of Krishna's mercy, his plan. Even Maya, she's not bad. She's there to help us. She's there to keep us on track. Maya says, hey, if you're a little off track, you're going to be a long way off track in a little while. So pay attention. Wake up. Anyway, I changed the subject.
No, that's okay, Mataji. So in the book, all these topics are covered in the book, but the one thing which I am very interested in, which stood out to me, I like to exercise, I like to stay physically fit as much as possible, take care of my health.
Okay.
So in the book, you always start the sessions with some form of exercise. It can be swimming, it can be fencing, it can be mountain climbing, zip lining, whatever.
Yeah.
There are many things in this thing. What is the significance of that physical exercise in when it comes to that therapy? And also, is there a link with the exercise? Like, okay, today we are going swimming because this is the lesson we want to learn. Today we are zip lining because this is the lesson we want to learn.
Well, the book evolved little by little. There were points that I wanted to make, and we called it spiriotherapy, spiritual therapy. And they wanted to do physical exercise too.
Right.
And so
they wanted to lose weight. That was one of their goals.
Yeah. So, and a lot of times, taking examples in real life helps us to sometimes integrate the spiritual lesson in a deeper way. So the first chapter is a reflection on perfection. So then a reflection, I thought, well, water is a reflection. And so, then I just thought, okay, swimming, that's an exercise, but then you can talk about a reflection on perfection, and you've got a reflective body of water there, and so you can tie the two things in together. So it was whatever the lesson was, then I tried to figure out some exercise that matched up with what I was talking about. That's how I did it.
Right, in the book that's how you did it, but do you think that physical exercise has a significance when it comes to that sort of therapeutic this thing, or do you think it is?
Physical exercise stimulates the brain. It keeps us fit so that we can discern better. So
I only ask Mataji because it's an aspect which I feel that devotees don't pay attention to anymore, because we are not the body, we are the soul. We want to just be serving in Krishna consciousness. We'll be dancing in kirtan and we'll get fit. Like, that is sort of the mentality that we're going towards. So if there is a significance, I just wanted to understand from a therapeutic perspective.
Yeah, well, Krishna is so amazing that healing goes on different levels. So as we heal the body, it gives us space to also heal the emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of ourselves. They're all connected, and that's how Krishna does everything. It's all interconnected. So, and when you heal, sometimes the hidden aspects, the mental, the emotional aspects, you heal the body also. And it gives more space for the soul, because you're feeling, more energy. So I think physical health is a simple thing, and it's a basic thing. And we're not the body, but we're in a body. So tell me which devotee smashes their car or drives their car on empty, or doesn't put oil in their car when the light comes on. Which devotee just drives around recklessly? I mean, some people.
Not on purpose, but
yeah. So when we're reckless, we can wreck more. And the same thing with our body. And this is a temple. When we disrespect the body, we're disrespecting a gift Krishna gave us. This human body is a gift. The demigods are waiting in line to take a human birth. It's a gift. And if we disrespect the gift, we're missing the gifts of the gift. We're missing the blessings of the gift. So it's really important, and it's an integrated practice. As we care for the body, we're also caring for our soul. Our soul lives in the body. If we make it hard on the body, the soul sometimes has a hard time. How can I explain that? It's harder for us to realize our soul part if our body is suffering so much. Now, as we get older, there will be more suffering. We don't need to do it, add on more now. A lot of people talk about austerities. It's austere to be a soul in a human machine. It's really austere. It's not easy. And then to make a declaration, I'm going to be a devotee and I'm not going to take intoxications, I'm not going to numb my pain. That's an austerity. Austerity of speech. Speaking the truth in a pleasing way. That's an austerity. But everybody wants to do the physical austerities and show how austere they are. The more difficult austerities are the subtle austerities. Just speaking kindly, treating yourself with kindness. It's austere.
Self-empathy, as you explain in the books.
It's austere because it feels like, oh, I'm being selfish, and people are going to think bad of me if I take care of myself. Well, why are you so attached to what other people think? Is what other people think who you are? Maybe not. I think it's important what Krishna thinks. Yeah.
Because the austerity part leads very nicely into the next thing which I had, which was, there is a whole section where you talk about suppressing desires, and you have explained it in a very healthy way of what desires actually are and how you have to sort of deal with that desires. You cannot suppress them. You have to dovetail them into something more productive. So, in our parampara system, from Srila Prabhupada all the way, if you go back to the 6 Goswamis, Mahaprabhu, everyone, the examples of austerity, physical austerity, are countless. Whether Sanatan Goswami surviving on bati, or Raghunath Das Goswami just eating leftover rice that was thrown out from the Jagannath temple.
Yes.
Prabhupada used to sleep 4 hours a day.
Yes.
Continuously he was writing books. Gave all his physical life in the later years to writing and printing books and for distribution and for preaching. So, how can you reconcile this? Someone might ask, I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. How do you reconcile that with what you have mentioned in the book about not suppressing your desires? Because there must have been some suppression for all of those great personalities in the past.
I would say no.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it suppression.
Okay.
There's a difference between suppression and real renunciation. I would say renunciation is more like, okay, I don't really need that. It's just kind of like, I gotta focus here. I got something that I really want to do, and I'm so invested in this that I forget
the other
to
things.
eat.
Yeah, right.
I'm not forcing myself to not eat. I just forget. Did I eat today? I can't remember. And Prabhupada, by the way, he did get a massage almost every day.
Right. Yeah.
He got a massage. He took a morning walk. He took the advice of a doctor.
Yes.
Took it from Krishna, but he took a morning walk. He ate regulated, and when he ate, he just honored prasadam. He knew he had a mission, and he was like committed to that mission. And so when you're that invested, and you just talk, and Krishna gave him the energy that he needed. So I'd like to say I'm not Prabhupada. I'm not Sanatana Goswami, I'm not Rupa Goswami. And
So none of us are, but there's just quotations of like, oh, they used to do this, we should do at least whatever we are doing.
I'm not even Radhanath Swami. And when I stopped trying to be Radhanath Maharshi, I was a lot happier. I can't do that. It's like, no way I can do that. It's like, and we're all different. We have different capabilities, we have different strengths, we're different. We have different bodies. You know, when we do what we can do, and our consciousness is aligned, and there's some satisfaction in that, there's some joy in that, that's healthy. Prabhupada was not unhappy.
Right.
I mean, sometimes he did get a little stressed, but he wasn't unhappy. The 6 Goswamis were not unhappy. They were happy with what they were doing. They were invested in it. They were excited. They were enthusiastic about it. In suppression, we're stressed. We start throwing our stress out on other people. We're not happy. You know, you want to be honest. Am I really being tolerant, or am I actually just suppressing? And what is tolerance anyway? Because Prabhupada talks a lot about tolerance, but he talks about tolerance in regards to heat and cold, winter and summer. He doesn't talk about tolerating abuse. He doesn't talk about, you know, tolerating feelings of sadness, or even in regards to the senses. You know, there's a certain management that we do of the senses. We need to manage them because there's a place for the emotions. So we manage them. If we suppress them, when we suppress one emotion,
something else will come up.
And we suppress them all.
Yes.
So if we're really in the process of bhakti yoga, love, if we suppress all the other things, we suppress our ability to love too. It's kind of unhealthy detachment, disassociation, undetached. Are you connected? Are you connected with Krishna? So I was unhealthily detached in the early days, and I thought I was an advanced devotee. Thank you, Krishna, for showing me the truth.
Last question, Mataji. The book's names are Finding the Gap, Entering the Gap. If you can just, in a short way, explain what the gap is, because it's a suspense for those of you who have not read throughout the books. What is the gap? What is the gap?
We didn't even get to the end of the second book, so there's another acronym at the end. Well, these are the books: Finding the Gap and Entering the Gap.
Also, if you can explain the covers, Mataji, with the birds.
Yes. The gap, the original, the first meaning is Gita applied practically. And that's a really good way to start, because we know the Gita, we know the verses, and we use the verses to justify things that maybe don't need to be justified. Can we apply even one verse of the Bhagavad Gita? Wow, if we could apply one verse of the Gita in our life fully, that would be phenomenal. So this is about Gita applied practically. And this first book is about the mind and the false ego. And I really go into detail about the false ego systems and divide it into 6 personas. Because we talk about the false ego, but it's like a huge, ominous cloud. It's so vague. We can't put our finger on it. And if you can't put your finger on it, you really can't do anything about it. And sometimes we just see the tip of the iceberg. Oh yeah, I got angry. Yeah, it's my false ego. But there's 90% of the iceberg under the water. Why did I get angry? Where is that from? You know, what am I harboring? How did all that anger get stored up in me? So, Gita applied practically. That's the first definition, and it's an acronym, Gita applied practically. The gap is something much more than that.
Yes.
But that's how it begins. And this is about the mind and the false ego. And here are two birds. The blue bird is Krishna, and the yellow bird is the Jiva. And this little yellow bird here is on autopilot. He's in his auto mechanism and kind of doesn't really know that Krishna's there beside him, and unaware that Krishna's trying to give him some direction, even though Krishna does still direct him. He's just unaware, kind of like spaced out. So that's what this book is about. And then Entering the Gap is about the anarthas, which I do call habits. Because again, when we name anarthas like demons, it's like, oh, I got all these demons inside of me, and then that creates kind of resistance. Because we resist having demons inside of us. We resist. So I call them habits because really, even the anarthas are strategies to kind of fulfill our needs, but they're perverted strategies and strategies that might work in the short term, but in the long term they don't. Just like lying. It's a strategy to get what you want rapidly. And there are long-term consequences. Yeah. And we can create new habits, not on top of the old ones, but we can create new habits. And as we create new habits, we can start to let go of the old habits. We don't need them anymore because we're getting our needs met over here in a new way, which is more productive and more healthy and healing. So in this book, of course, this covers also blue and cold and frozen, and nothing's growing on the branch here. So we're kind of like frozen in our autopilot. So here, the Jiva is waking up, and the characters in the book are Jiva, Jago, and Karuna. So you need Karuna, compassion, in order to Jiva, Jago, wake up. So the bird is waking up and recognizing that Krishna is next to her, and she's even maybe conversing with Krishna, and it's warming up this connection, and the branch is growing, and the Jiva is growing, and their love is growing. So this is really what Krishna Consciousness is about. It's about growing. It's not about memorizing. It's not about austerities. And we can't make ourselves Krishna conscious. We need Krishna. So that means maybe we need to start connecting more with Krishna and how to do that. So that's what I'm going to say about the books. Do you have any other things that you want to ask about them?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful. Sorry, I asked. So if I asked any wrong questions or difficult questions, I'm very sorry.
I mean, that you're curious and you want to know, and I try to say the truth in as much a pleasing way as I can. You really did your homework, though. I'm really impressed at how meticulously you designed the questions, and I had no idea any of these questions were going to come up. So, yeah.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart that the story you have been through, the journey you have been through, Mataji, is I cannot even imagine, and that because I am getting to live a very comfortable life within a very sheltered devotee community is a testament to your sacrifice and many others like you who are Prabhupada disciples and who have done so much for all of us. So I'm very grateful to you. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you for your appreciation, and of course, Krishna's mercy comes in many ways, and sometimes the pain that comes into us gives us more reason to cry out to Krishna and more realization. So sometimes that's a blessing also in disguise. And certainly I made lots of mistakes, and I'm grateful that our movement is growing and that people do have balanced lives. They have jobs and they're learning how to manage and maintain their lives. I didn't start learning that till I was 55. So you learn from life. Life is austere. You don't have to perform austerities to have austerity in your life. Being a soul in a human machine is austere. When you can learn from the events of your life and use those events of your life as a means of deepening your spiritual realization. What are you trying to teach me here, Krishna? Make it spiritual. It is spiritual. It's an opportunity. When you take that on, every event can be transformative. And you don't have to do what we did. You just need to live your life. There's plenty there. Thank you so much. Thank you.